Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien, personal development coach, HeartMath practitioner, dog photographer, and entrepreneur. In this podcast, I share tools, strategies, and amazing guest interviews to help you improve your mindset and your well-being with a sprinkle of fun and probably some mention of dogs along the way. So without further ado, let's squeeze the day. Hi folks, welcome to episode 63 of the podcast with my guest, Ranya Ahmed. Today we're talking about human design and how understanding your type can help you live a more fulfilling life and feel more confident whilst you're at it. First, a little bit about Ranya. She's a human design life and business coach, and she is a 4/6 manifesting generator with emotional authority, and she helps her clients grow sustainable businesses whilst living a fulfilling life in all areas. Welcome to the podcast, Ranya.
Thank you, Emma. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm very much looking forward to this conversation today because I have to say I know very little about human design. We were chatting just before we came on air, and I have done a test and I'm a manifesting generator, but I don't really know what that means. So we're going to jump into that. But could you kick us off by sharing what human design is?
Yes, and there is a lot of information out there on the internet for people who wants to really go down the rabbit hole. But my approach is very simple. I like to simplify things. It's one of my business values. So I'm just going to talk very simple terms here. Human design is a mix of ancient and modern science, if you will. So it has a lot of different elements in it. Some of it could be, the Hindu chakras, a little bit of quantum mechanics. So long story short, a little bit of ancient and modern science. And it is a tool for self-knowledge. It's a tool to understand yourself like never before. And once you know that, you're able to, apply that into your life, into your relationships, into your business, because now you know your inner self, your unique strengths, your unique, gifts and superpowers. So it's a tool to help you get to know yourself better. The system was created back in the 80s. It's more popular now because we hear this word a lot about human design, but it was actually created back in the 80s by Ra Uru. And, it's more like an experiment for one to explore themselves. And it's like an energetic blueprint or, your guide, your unique guide on how you navigate through the different energies. And once you understand that, you're able to just be yourself. And that's really what it's all about.
And that's very important in a world where I think we often are under societal pressure to be somebody other than ourselves.
Absolutely. So it's that permission slip, if you will, that tells you that you're fine. You're actually great. Show us your gifts. Show us your unique, superpowers, and don't try to follow everybody else. We just want everybody to show up authentically, because that's how we're going to make bigger impact in the world, when everybody's showing up in their unique gifts and superpowers.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying about a permission slip to be yourself. And I think the more and more there are people out online, and hopefully we're two of them, who are actually showing up, doing their thing as themselves. And my thought on that is that when you and I show up as our authentic selves, it kind of gives permission to other people to go, oh, actually, it's okay for me to be normal, and it's okay for me to say normal, but it's okay for me to show up as me with my particular sense of humor I've got, or with the way I speak. Running your own podcast is one of those things where I've had to listen back to myself so many times, and it's awful. But then you get to the point of going, but this is how I speak. This is me. I mean, exactly. It's just, I no point trying to do it any other way. And it's that self-acceptance, which I think is just so important.
Absolutely. Because when you are, like you said, it's self-acceptance, is loving yourself unconditionally and making peace that you're not going to be the right person for everybody. It's okay. You know what I mean? That I'm going to attract the right people around me, the right people who wants to learn from me, or the right people that I can impact. And for those who is not a match, they're going to find the right people for them, because again, the goal here is for everybody to show up authentically so we can make bigger impact in the world.
Yeah, so important. And I love that. So I said to you, I have a loose understanding of human design, which is why you're here to tell us more about it. Um, you've said you're a 4/6 manifesting generator with emotional authority, which I would love to hear more about. I'm going to question stack a little bit at you now. Before you jump into telling us about your type and what that means for you, can you share how many different types there are?
Yes, so there are 5 different types in human design. And the first type we call the generator. And then we have the manifesting generator, which is a subcategory of the first type. And then we have the manifestors, the projectors, and the reflectors. And each type have their unique energetic makeup, if you will. And that type is just one level of human design. There are so many different levels, but when you start understanding your type, things are going to start be like, aha, that's why I'm feeling that way, right? Because everybody's a little bit different. And the type is the very, very basic foundation level where you get to understand your energetic blueprint.
Okay, and how does one go about determining which type you are?
Yes, so basically what we want to do is we want to generate a human design chart. And there are so many free resources, free applications out there. I personally prefer going with the original website that Rahu created, which is called Jovian Archive. When you go on the website, you can generate your free chart by entering your birth information, and that will give you a chart with lots of things going on. But it also tells you what type you are. So one of those 5s that we've covered, it's going to tell you also your authority, which is how you're designed to make decisions, because everybody is designed to make decisions a little bit differently. And then your profile, like me, 4/6. So everything on this chart means something in your energetic blueprint.
Okay, that's a lot of information. So I think the easiest way for me to understand that, can you explain what yours means for you and how it shows up? You're a 4/6 and you've got emotional authority. Just talk me through what that means to you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd just love a bit more information about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give examples too, because I think also for, anybody who's listening to us can start relating why are, or how these types are different. So me, for example, as a manifesting generator, I am someone who has a lot of energy. Like I thrive working on different projects. Like I'm doing the podcast with you, and then maybe I have a client, and then I have my kids. Like I run around all day long, all night long. I have this source of energy within me. Versus if somebody, for example, who is a projector, maybe they don't have as much energy as me, but they have their unique gifts. And one of them is that they can actually see through things, see the blind spots of others. So they have a different type of energy. And for example, when I'm coaching a client who's a projector, I always tell them work smart, not hard. Don't try to follow the generators and manifesting generators who are running, 24 hours, and they think that they can't catch up with their energy. It's just that everybody has a different type and everybody has their unique strength. So that would be, the first layer of knowing the type and how you operate, and that not to compare yourself with another type because, again, everybody is different. If we're looking at the emotional authority piece, this is how I am designed to make decisions. So again, there are different authorities in the human design system. What it means to be an emotional authority is that I'm not designed to make fast decisions versus somebody else who is, example, a sacral authority. So the sacral authorities, they make decisions fast in the moment. They know what excites them, they go for it. But for me, as an emotional authority, I need more time to get clarity because something might sound a yes for me today, but tomorrow might sound like not really. So I really need to wait for my emotional wave, my highs and the lows to feel into my emotion, to come to that baseline of really understanding how I feel about that decision before rushing into it and then regretting it. So that's the authority is really about making decisions. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
it makes perfect sense. And I think it's so interesting when we come back to that element of giving yourself permission to do life on your
Absolutely.
terms. Because I think if I'm listening to you and you're saying that you might weigh a decision up and it might take a bit of time, I am not like that. I will make decisions very
Mhm.
quickly. I'm very decisive, and then I will just make a decision in the moment. It's usually the right decision, and even if it's not, I'll say, well, I decided it, so I go with the consequences, and I'll pivot and I'll change.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting listening that you're almost the opposite of that.
Absolutely. And you know
Yeah.
what, Emma, it's very important when we understand this because here's where we're going to get to that permission slip, right? I lived my whole life thinking something was wrong with me
Yeah.
because I cannot take as fast decisions as
Mm-hmm.
my family or my partner or my friends, right? And to me, I was like, what was wrong with me? But as soon as I understood my human design and I understood that I am designed to take my time in my decisions, that's what's in alignment with me. I started to say, oh, I wish somebody told me this, like, 10, 20 years ago. And that's when you start really understanding your design and how to use it. And making decisions is something like really important in all aspects of our life. So, I wish we can spread this more and teach people what is in alignment with them when it comes to decision making. So it's definitely an important piece of the human design system.
Yeah, and I think this resonates a lot with me. I have a friend who is an Enneagram coach, and I have had somebody else talking about Enneagram. So I guess in a very overarching view, human design is a different type of personality definition system. They're very, very useful when you start to understand, like you've said, that different people make decisions very differently. So I am a snap decision maker, 100% okay with that. My partner, on the other hand, is like you, takes his
Hmm.
time, and it's very frustrating for me sometimes. But I think armed with the knowledge that that is how his emotional makeup is and his
Hmm.
personality is, it allows me to be a little bit more patient.
Exactly. Exactly.
However
Yes.
frustrating that might be for me. But I think but it's so interesting. And if we know other people's types, we can, and in the workplace, I imagine it has a huge
100%.
impact,
100%.
and you'd get less frustrated with people because actually Ranya takes a bit of time to make a decision. So we're going to give her, we might give you 24 hours. If you were working for me, you might get
Hmm.
that amount of time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might take 24 minutes or even less.
Yeah.
Tell me a
No
little
pressure.
bit. No pressure, no pressure, everybody, no pressure. But I can relate to the manifesting generator piece of being on the go all the time and doing things and creating and being in
Mhm.
action. And I guess the flip side of that is understanding that sometimes we perhaps need to look at how other types are working and just slow down a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why, like I said, for human design, there's so many different layers.
Mm.
And for example, there is, your strategy. Now that you know your type, what do you need to do, right? So as a manifesting generator, it's important for you to inform those who are around you where you're going with your plan, right? Because you're super fast and they need to catch up. So your strategy is to inform, is to wait to respond. Like, there's so many layers. And then also, like you said, not to put expectations on others because
Mm.
sometimes, in parenthood or maybe in friendships or partnerships, maybe sometimes we're putting expectations and, then we get disappointed, right? Or
Mm.
frustrated. But if we
Mm.
understand our partners and their own,
Mm.
energetic makeup, now you kind of like have this conversation like, yeah, I know why this is happening, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
your human design versus mine. And then it brings us more together, even
Yes.
though we're sometimes very different. But just because we understand our differences, we can rely on each other's gifts and rely on each other's, superpowers and support each other rather than looking at our differences and pinpoint it, right?
Yes, that's it. And it's that being compassionate, being patient, and understanding other people do things differently and making that okay. I think
Yeah.
that's often we're very intolerant with each other as a collective, because we expect people to do things the way we do things. And I love what you're saying with
Absolutely.
a manifesting generator probably should come with a warning. Warning, I like to work fast. So brace yourself. Buckle up, folks.
Exactly.
Incoming.
But that's the beauty of human design because if you understand the different types, you can now see the gifts on each type and then you can
Mhm.
ask them to operate in their own zone of genius, right? Like I can do this, but you can do that, right? Let's complete each other here on that project, for example.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's so great. I would love it if you would share a little bit about the other four types for me, because we've talked a lot about manifesting generators,
Yes,
because we can relate to that. Would you share a
yes.
little bit about the other four and what the characteristics are of those? Because I'd be interested for people listening going, oh, I think that's me. And then they can go and take a test and
Yes.
find out.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the generators because they're pretty much like the manifesting generators. They have a lot of energy. They are on the go, like I've said, but they're more of a master of their own skill. Like they're more focused on what they're doing. Again, they can work on maybe they have their own job and then their business. That could happen. But they're more very, masterful of their own skills versus, us as a manifesting generators. We kind of like jump and hop between things. We don't have to necessarily do the whole thing from A to Z. We kind of let go of things and then we come back to it. Like we're more all over the place, but it's how we are in our own, genius because we can pick on things faster. We find shortcuts. But the generator is really like taking their time in their own, lane, making it a masterful skill, and then they move on to the next thing. And they have a lot of energy, like the manifesting generators. Now, if we're looking at the manifestors, these are people who are really leaders and they have their own way of doing things. They, they know where they want to go and they want to create it. And they are also meant to lead people and show them different possibilities. So, and these types, here's where people, it's going to connect because the manifestor might have a new idea, but not necessarily have the sustainable energy to make the project complete. That's when the generator can come in and take this idea and continue on that project and then make it a skillful thing. But that's more about the manifestors. They're very creative and they're here to show us different ways of doing things, like I've said. The projectors, we've touched on that a little bit earlier. Again, they don't have as consistent energy as the first two types, but they're very, very wise people. And like I said, they see the blind spots of others. They have a lot of wisdom to share, but they're not meant to share that wisdom with everyone around them. It needs to be with the right people, and they need to wait for that invitation because sometimes they can see okay, I have something to tell you. It's for your own benefit. But the way they say things, if they don't wait for that invitation to be heard, sometimes it comes out as, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but it's more like pushy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's not received in the right way versus if they trust that, when it's time for me to share that information and people come and say, hey, Emma, you're quiet. I want to take your opinion on this, right? Now, when they share their wisdom, it is received in a very, very powerful way. Again, because they can see through things. They have a true gift.
Mm-hmm.
The last one is the reflector. So the reflectors, they are a rare type. They're only 1% of the population. And they are here to show us, all the other types, how good are we doing on this planet. So they're more like its name, reflectors. When you speak to a reflector, you kind of see yourself in them. They mirror back to you who you are and what you're doing. So they have this power of showing you, how good are you or, what you need to do, to improve. So like I said, they're a very rare type and they absorb a lot of energy from the other types. And they're just 1% of the population.
Wow. Okay, I was going to ask you, I knew there was one type that was very rare, reflectors. Okay.
Reflectors, yes,
Right.
yes,
So if you meet one of those, you're very lucky, possibly.
yes. And
Depending
it's
on
very
what they
important for
reflect back.
them. Exactly. And one of the things that's very important for reflectors, if we're lucky to have a listener now, is that they need to make sure that they are in the right space for them, in the right place, in the right timing with the right people, because they absorb a lot of the energy of the other people. So if they're not in the right environment, they usually feel off and their energy is draining. So you really want to pay attention to the environment that you're in, to the circle of your friends that you have, are they trustworthy or is there something off? This means that, okay, you need to take a step back and see, am I in the right environment at the right timing with the right people? That's my advice for the reflectors.
Okay, amazing. I mean, this is fascinating to me with all of this, and it makes so much sense with how we all show up and clash with each other and also then gel with each other.
Absolutely.
My last question for you is how human design has changed your life.
I like this question because when I have discovered human design, I was in a place where I'm like, I don't know what I need to do. Like, I have my work, I have my family, but I always felt there's something more for me. So when I came across human design and I started really understanding my human design, everything started to make sense. Like my life experiences started to make sense. My emotional authority, I told you, like that was a life changing for me. So that was the beginning of a new era in my life, if you will, when I really understood myself. And I was like, oh, so I don't need to, try to be somebody else or lose myself to please others, right? This is who I am. And to come back home to who I am, I really need to do a lot of inner work now, right? Because I have lived my life in a certain way. And now I want to bring myself back to my human design, my true self, because it made sense on paper, right? Like when I saw the information, I was like, yeah. So that was the first start. And then after, really embodying my design, you start to see this ripple effect of, oh my God, like I can do like better decisions or I can, make impact. So you start getting these little step-by-step ripple effect of more confidence, loving yourself unconditionally, and, really, I think it's freedom of your soul, really. Like you kind of like just be yourself. And that is something that, like you said, with the society, with who you need to be in the office or who you need to be in your business or who you need to be as a woman or whatever, there's always this expectation. But now that you understand your human design, it's a whole different story. And and from there, you develop a new relationship with yourself, right? And then from there, a new relationship with your partner or with your friends, with your family, because now you know yourself more than any time before. And if you start also understanding about other people, human design, you see that dynamic in the relationship with money, the relationship in your business with your clients. So it really all started with falling in love with yourself, like you said at the very beginning, the acceptance of who you truly are. And then from there, it's just a ripple effect that you just have to follow it step by step and witness it unfold in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds so powerful. And I think when we're armed with A, self-knowledge and B, self-acceptance, life does unfold very differently because you show up unapologetically being yourself. I think it's much easier to set boundaries when you know this is where my tolerance level stops. This is where my energy stops for the time I've got. This is actually what I want to be doing. This is who I want to be spending time with. And we're able to actually really lean into living life.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
can relate to what you've said before I started doing a lot of personal development work. It was kind of this existence of doing what I thought I should be doing because that's what, you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do because everyone tells you. And I had a deep sense of being very unfulfilled
Mm-hmm.
because it's getting in touch with that purpose. But I think you've got to know yourself, to know your gifts, to be able to say, this is me, this is what I can help people with, this is what I really love doing, and then to be able to create a plan to actually show up as that authentic self and go out and do the work you're, dare I say, destined to go and
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the work you do with your own clients. I know you use human design for life and business coaching, so I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes, and I have a funny story if we have a minute.
We do.
You know how when we start our business, they always tell you, niche down, pick one thing, one offer, and start with that. But as a manifesting generator, that was very, very difficult for me because I want to play in all the buckets, right? And I made peace with who I am. So that's why my title is like human design life and business coach, like it's everything, right? And to me, my approach is that I help, coaches or online service providers build up, and grow their business in a sustainable way for their energies, right? Based on their type and their authority. So I guide them to grow their business in alignment with their true authentic self while also not dropping the ball in other areas in their life. So that's really what I'm all about, is having a successful business, but not just the business. It's all about having a fulfilling life, which business is part of it. So that is my approach and what I do.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think just to highlight what you've said, which resonates a lot with me, is if you're running your own business, you can often get caught up with thinking you're going to run your own business and have more freedom and do your own thing. And if you are not careful, you end up being imprisoned by it. And my view is that we are not here to work. We're here to do work that allows us to live and to do fulfilling work that adds light and value to the world, but also to our own lives, because we are here to have a good time, dare I say it, and to have a life outside of work. So what I hear is that you're coaching by helping people understand their human design, how it impacts the way they work and the way they live. You're able to really help people tap into the strengths in there, be aware of their weaknesses, using air quotes, folks, here with that, but aware of their areas of where they could improve or where they might catch themselves out, and to really help them kind of style life around that, which I think sounds really, really exciting and very interesting.
Yeah. I know you said weaknesses and quote unquote. In human design, how I see this is that there is no strengths and weaknesses. What we have is strengths, and then areas that when we work on it, it can turn into superpowers. That's why I've been using the words gifts and superpowers.
Yeah.
The gifts are what you already know. You already know that you have this within you. And then the superpowers is that when you do that inner work and turn those, I'll use your word, weaknesses into superpowers, because they are, once you know how to use these energies and once you know why you're reacting certain ways, you are able to choose a different story and empower yourself with the tools to make this area a superpower.
Yeah, and I think that's just such a lovely reframe how you've put that, because I think that is where, I mean, I'm coming at it from a sort of traditional mindset of, and that's how a lot of people look at themselves, isn't it? Here are my strengths, Absolutely. Here are my weaknesses. And actually, I really like that you're saying, well, the perceived weaknesses are things that when you understand them better, you can really use them to elevate. So what a lovely reframe. I believe you have a free masterclass that people can access to help them understand their human design. Would you just share where we can find that and a little bit more about that?
Yes, so they can find it on my Instagram page. So it's ranya.ahmed.biz, B-I-Z as business. And the masterclass is called No Cure for Me. The reason why I chose this name, and sometimes people are confused with it, is that when I have new clients and they say, oh, like this is, what's wrong with me? And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you. You actually need no cure. This is how you're designed to be, right? So it's called No Cure for Me. That's how I'm designed to be. And it explains all the different types and the different strategies and authorities. So if somebody is interested in learning, the basics of their human design, I think this is a great masterclass, that it's done in a fun way, easy way for them to understand their design, to start embodying it as a first step in their human design journey.
Brilliant. I'm going to pop the link to that in the show notes. I'll pop the link to your Instagram as well, so people can go and connect with you. So folks, if you've listened and you found this really fascinating, please do connect with Ranya. I've so enjoyed this conversation. This has been really, I've learned a lot, and it's been really lovely talking to you and sharing this time with you. And I hope everybody who's listening has enjoyed it as well. So it's been lovely. Thank you for joining me today.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. And this was a really great conversation. Thank you, Emma.
You are so welcome. Folks, thank you for joining us. And please hop over to Instagram and find me at Emma O'Brien Coach and let me know what your favorite bit of this podcast was. This has been really great. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time, folks. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share with your friends and be sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. To find out more about my one-on-one coaching, please visit my website, which is emmaobriencoach.com. And remember, folks, when life gives you lemons, you can always choose another fruit. See you next time.